Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, this is Phil in the nine, and just giving you a heads up that I literally just woke up 5 minutes ago and I had to jump out of bed, make a nice cup of coffee, and get this information out there. So, the reason I'm dropping in today is because I briefly touched on this subject about 3 months ago for about a minute, but it all came together today. All right. So, there is so much availability with regard to where we're at as a collective. This morning, I was seeing into all these timelines in the past where we suffered and we struggled a lot because we didn't have the information that we have now. In other words, we weren't in tune with the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, the law of resonance, all of these things. We weren't in tune with them. We didn't understand them. We hadn't cracked the universal codes. So it made it a lot harder to move through things. It also took a lot longer. That's the key right there. It took a lot longer. So I'm laying in bed this morning having a conversation with the nine, and we just went back and forth and back and forth, and boop, we pieced it all together. So I often talk about how there can be thick material, dense energy held within your physical structure. You have a carbon-based molecule, and then you have the new crystalline molecule. In an older energy, the majority, I would say 99% of the population, were functioning within a carbon-based stranded DNA. So if you think of carbon, it's just dense, heavy energy that doesn't have the quality that crystals do. So the carbon-based structure, think of it as a grid system. It's a matrix where there are all these lower vibrational emotions that inhabit that space. In an older version of reality, it wasn't low, it was what was necessary at the time. Again, people were not privy to these universal laws, and it took a lot longer for them to connect the dots. So the carbon base is everything that has to do with being crippled with anxiety, fear, everything to do with separation consciousness, the ego running the show, doing things that we don't want to do, but we feel like our hands are tied and we have no choice. Feeling obligation towards others, feeling like we have to report to other people, blaming each other, judging each other, pointing a finger at each other. All of these things are part of a carbon-based molecule. So now that there is so much availability as it relates to the crystalline state of DNA, which is that crystal matrix, we don't have to struggle like we used to. Now, I'm going to take this very quantum information with the assistance of my guides here and break it down in a way that is digestible, because that's what I'm here to do, is be a translator for higher dimensional energy and galactic codes, cosmic frequencies. We file that information down and we break it down. It's like chopping a carrot, boop, 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 so you can understand it with ease. So when you hold dense material in your body, the way that this universe has been designed, your universe, is that it's going to bring back in physical form that energy, that frequency that you're dwelling at within your structure. So if you hold fear, your universe will match that in a tangible way within materiality, so that you can really bring attention to what it is about your belief systems that you would like to modify. So if someone is holding fear, the universe is always going to respect their wishes, because the universe is here to affirm you in your belief systems. But here's the thing about reflections that come from the outer world. They're not always there just to affirm you. That's just one component. They're also there to offer you a choice. What do you want to do with the information that's being brought to the table? Are you going to choose something different? Are you going to decide to alter your perception so that you can move yourself into a different dimension? Have you ever noticed that when you are really agitated, then all of a sudden you have crazy drivers around you, that's because the universe is showing you which frequency bandwidth you're dwelling at. And in that moment, it's affirming you. It's saying, hey, we are verifying that we just want to verify you. It's like a check mark that right now people are crazy. So that's not an untruth. It's true. We also want to confirm that what you're feeling is accurate and it is valid, and you have a right to feel what you're feeling. And now we would also like to offer you this other option, which is, can you look at yourself through this outer reflection and decide to make a different choice? We call this vibrational selection. And if you are able in that moment to take a deep breath and take a nice exhalation and open up your heart, you've literally just traveled to a different dimension. And now all of a sudden the cars around you aren't as quote unquote crazy. You may even be around the same people, but because you've switched the version of who you are, meaning you've moved yourself into a higher octave of consciousness, now you're going to evoke other people's best versions. So timelines are always falling away, but they're still there for other people who need that experience. But timelines are always going to drop away when you vibrate yourself into a higher one. The characters in your game might still be the same, but what's going to happen is that you're going to elicit a much higher dimensional version of who they are. Think of your family, for instance, all the times that you judge them and then there would be a blowback. Well, that's because you were evoking that lower version of who they are that was responding to you. So in that moment, in their universe, you were a mirror to them. And maybe they held a belief that you would judge them. So that belief, this is cool, that belief that they were holding against you, which was a valid one because it's happened before, kept replaying that same scene. So in the moment that you judge them, they then have a choice. Are they going to decide to be a participant in that? Or are they going to choose to take the higher road and not take it to heart, not get defensive, not get reactive, not take it personally? So our universe is always mirroring back what it is that we are still holding within ourselves that either needs to be examined or maybe released, or maybe just transformed. So you're transmuting the energy of it. So I don't want to get into that too much right now, but what I want to share is that your vibration is always going to bring back to it its reciprocation in tangible form. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. Now, the incredible download I got this morning is that these blockages that you harbor within, they transmit a signal outwardly. And then they kind of set into your physical world as a lower vibrating scenario or a lower vibrating circumstance. So let's say that you have a fear around leaving a job, which usually has nothing to do with a job. It's something that runs really deep. It probably goes back many lifetimes, a fear that you won't be taken care of, a fear that you're alone in this world, a fear. And so then you have to manipulate your situations to keep generating money, which keeps you in the same scenario because you're not willing to jump out of that box and try something new. Everything comes down to patterns. So the more dense your pattern, the more blockages you'll have in your world, the more stalled you'll feel, the more blocked you'll feel. So let's say that you are at a job that you really don't like, and spiritually you're like, I don't belong here. Well, physically you still hold a blockage that is saying to you, well, you're still here. Why are you here then? Because everything has to align at a soul level, you see. We cannot really say, I don't belong here, but we're still there, because that's contradictory. But it's okay, all right? So just know that as I share this, There is no judgment. Everything is a valid choice because we're all here to be explorers, and we're exploring ourselves through these frequencies that we hold within that then are brought back physically. And we have to kind of be in the knot sometimes. Think of it as a knot. Sometimes we want to be in the knot to untie the knot. But this is where the information gets amazing. What I was shown is that there's so much availability now. There's so many people who have cracked the codes that we don't have to drag our feet through the mud like we once did. It takes a lot longer to untangle a knot when you're in the knot. And this is where it gets really deep. So if you have a notebook, you would probably want to jot this down. Let's imagine for a second that your job is representative of an internal blockage. The reason you are at your job is so that you can address this blockage. It's kind of how we've designed this game. Because unless you're a Buddha or a monk that meditates all day long, you will need that strong reflection outside to make the appropriate adjustment inside. So let's consider for a moment that this job of yours is a knot. It's a knot that you have in your body that then has to kind of externalize itself as your job. And now you dread going in every day. You hate it. You detest it. Sorry, I'm just waking up, so I'm like, I might stumble a little bit. So you might detest this job. Well, what the 9 were bringing through this morning, which was so powerful, and they're with me right now, so you will feel them as I speak, because we had a crazy night last night. I officially blended my energy with theirs. So when I speak now, it's always me and the 9. It's a collaborative effort. Other story. All right, so the information that came through today was that the block that you hold within your body is still carbon-based. So it vibrates at a slower speed. Remember, crystalline, everything vibrates fast, which is why you're able to manifest readily. Carbon, everything vibrates slowly, so it takes longer to get out of relationships that are toxic. It takes longer to leave a job that you know isn't harmonizing with your soul. When you're in the knot, meaning you keep going to your job every day, you're in that lower density. So the 9 are saying you can be there as long as you want. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to choose that as your experience, as long as you see it as an experience, that you are extracting data from that situation. There's no judgment there. But what they were showing me this morning is that if you are clearing that knot from a different dimensional frequency, meaning that you decide, I'm going to leave the job, I'm done, it's not a match for me. The knot, because you're clearing it from a higher timeline or from a higher frequency, the knot doesn't have to take years to untangle, to undo. Do you get the gist? This is so powerful. So going to anything, to a meeting with a friend, to a coffee shop with a friend, to being in a relationship where you feel stuck, that is you being in the actual block within your body. Except that you're in the block within your body, externally. You're in the block. You're encapsulated in it. You get it? So because the blockage vibrates at a lower speed, it's going to take that much longer to get out of it because you keep going back thinking that there's something wrong with you. Because the fear and those lower energies are governing you. In an older energy, I would say that that was appropriate to do because we didn't have the tools that we have now. And it's still okay to do. Again, you are the chooser, you are the maker of what it is that you create. I'll give you very practical examples that pertain to my situation, okay? So 12 years ago, when I was like bodybuilding, like I was big into it. And I still love to train, okay? A lot of times when I talk about the gym and having to skip it, I'm more sharing the dark side of it. But I love feeling good. I love being fit. But 12 years ago, I was obsessed with having meals every 3 hours a day, to the point where it was like I was on a leash and I was a slave to my lifestyle. I remember going to parties and leaving the party halfway, going in my car, eating a chicken salad, and going back to the party. So I was completely under the dominion of these different entities, because at the time, I didn't really see it as a problem. But I kind of knew there was a problem because it was running my life. Like I would set a timer every time we left the house and be like, we need to be back in 3 hours so I can cook a meal. It was horrible. I would never go back to that way. The reason why it took so long to clear is because I kept doing it. So anything that you reinforce, anything that you energize is going to grow like a fungus. That's just how it goes. That's how the cookie crumbles. So it's like, this is the information that came through this morning that was so potent. It would take me longer to get to what I wanted to get to because I had these meals that were constantly interfering with my life. I wanted to be at the party. My soul wanted to be at the party. And yet I had all these lags. We're going to call them lags because I had these carbon-based energies within my body that were completely dictating my reality. So if you can imagine how, if you're an artist and you want to get to your painting already, but now you have a job, maybe you work at a phone company or you work at a corporate office and you have to go to this office. All you want to do, which is your higher self, that's the resonance of your higher self, it's the creativity within you. All you want to do is get to your painting, right? But why can't you get to it now? Because if you were the only source creator being of your reality, co-creating with your universe, then you would be able to paint right now. There would be no lag. You get it? Because you would be operating within a crystalline state of DNA. So you wouldn't have to put things on hold. You wouldn't have to step out of the party and have your chicken salad. You wouldn't have to go to this corporate job. You would stretch your faith and decide, I'm not doing it anymore. And from that vantage point, which is a lot scarier because the crystalline is foreign to you, because you've been operating within the carbon so long. I hope that made sense. The crystalline is foreign to you, and we're always afraid of the unknown, okay? So we're afraid to let go into that which we cannot see. We have to see things. We always want evidence, yes? So that evidence will always be brought back to you. If you say, I'm miserable at a job, and you keep going back, that's your evidence that as long as you want to be at the job, you will be at the job. You may not want to be there spiritually, but then you have to prove it through your actions. You have to prove that you're willing to step out of that box. But as long as you're in that box and you say, I don't want to be there, but you're still there, then your universe is affirming you. It's saying, we respect you. And you may choose to be here as long as you want. Now, some of us, like myself, I just want to sip of my coffee. Sometimes I deliberately choose to go in those lower terrains of consciousness, on those lower dimensional landscapes, because I'm able to go in with my spiritual binoculars and study all the details. Because when things vibrate slower, you have access to more details, you see? I know that's deep. But when things vibrate slower, you can have access to more details within your point of focus. When you vibrate higher, you can have access to more details at a cosmic level. Like you can read, like I feel like throughout my day, the vision I always get is like, there's all these threads hanging from a ceiling that contain universal information, and I'm constantly reading those threads. It's like I have my third eye is pointing inwardly, and I'm always observing these threads, and I'm ingesting so much information at once. But when you're in a situation like abuse or at a job that you hate, everything is in slow motion. That's why the days feel so long. and you remember how the coworker smiles and how this person is doing that. You remember all the details because everything's vibrating slower. Everything's vibrating slower. It's in slow motion. Which those experiences are good to have because they show you everything about yourself and your belief systems that needs to be rewritten, that needs to be altered, that needs to be modified. So with this influx of cosmic energies coming in, we don't have to drag our feet through the mud like we once did. And I'm trying to think of another example I can use about my life. Okay, this morning, I heard a voice that said, we need you to skip the gym today and get on YouTube and do this video. And I was like, but I want to go today. And I've only gone like 4 times this week. I thought I want to go today. And then the 9 said to me, but you want to do the video, don't you? Of course I do. So do it. See, the thing is, my mental body, my 3rd dimensional mind, was thinking, well, I have to go to the gym before I do the video, which again is another delay, you see? Who's creating that delay? Me. It is merely impossible for us to create our reality if we are not fully responsible for our reality. I would have been responsible for going to the gym. Then I would have come back, maybe not have as much energy, maybe not have as much enthusiasm. So it was like, do you want to do it now? I want to do it now. Yeah. So do it now. And that's what I mean. We're constantly throwing ourselves back into that knot of a situation, trying to disentangle it, trying to remove ourselves from the spider web, when if we just said, I'm done, I'm just going to do what I want to do now and trust that my reality will conform, will kind of acclimate to my frequency, because that's how it works, you guys. That's how it works. But sometimes in the beginning, it may not happen overnight. Why won't it happen overnight for your reality to adjust itself to your frequency? Because you still hold that carbon in your body. So it takes longer for your body system to adapt itself to your new frequency. The more that you clear, the more that you uninstall those programs that kept you anchored in 3D, the faster you can get to what you want. And then you're always living a life that you want. So I love my life. It's very simple. It's very easy. It's very peaceful. I never do anything I don't want to do. Now, that's not to say that exercise isn't something that I don't always want to do, but I feel good doing it. But I choose to do it. It's not burdensome. It's not like, I'm dreading going to this job. But it took 8 years to clear that density from within, you see? So be patient with yourself. But I just think the visual is so cool. All of those lower vibrational energies, that thick material that's embedded in you, has no choice but to externalize itself, to show itself, so that you can make the adjustment. And because we've been so conditioned, it's really been hammered in us to continue to be in subjugation to the outside world. We don't question that. We keep going every day. I hate my job, but I'm going to go. I hate my job, but I'm going to go. And you can still clear that program from within. It's like being an insider, right? It's an inside job. But if you step out of that paradigm and you say, now I'm vibrating at this speed and I'm no longer going to go, that reality is going to completely collapse. And a new reality, you're making room, you're decluttering your garage, you're getting rid of one car to fit the other car. You're making way for new energy to usher in. And that energy is ushering you in to higher and higher realms. So The idea is to vibrate at a certain rate where anything that's no longer a match to you can just fall away. Now, most of us are not courageous enough to go there because it's daunting. It's scary to think that you might lose it all. But remember, there are entities that will convince you to remain in a situation where you're disharmonious and feed you lies that you will not be taken care of, that you will not be provided for, when there's an entire network of us, light workers, starseeds, grid workers, who have done the work and who will support you financially. My money comes from everyone. It's a network. We don't know each other physically all the time, but it's a telepathic distribution, or a telepathic circulation is a better word, of vibrational currency. And because we only serve and support those higher energies, our realities have no choice but to adhere to that, because it has to affirm us. You understand? Your reality has to affirm you. It has to say you are acknowledged no matter what you choose. If you're a smoker and you feel like people are judging you, we confirm it. People do judge you. You get it? Your reality is not going to penalize you for the choices that you make with your free will. That it's not what it's here to do. That's not its purpose. It's not its intent. Its intent is to always validate you, you see? But it's also to offer you a different choice. Your beliefs are going to determine how fast you choose to ascend. Your beliefs. And I've talked about this before, but if you believe that you have to be on a diet to ascend, then you will have to be on a diet to ascend. If you believe that you can eat M&Ms and ascend, then you will ascend. I consider myself to be tuned in all the time, and I eat pizza and things like that because I'm not under the governance of my body, but I love my body. I thank it. I'm holding my body. It is not holding me. I'm holding it. When your consciousness expands to that degree, you are holding your body. It's a vast field. It's a huge, immense auric field. Think of it as a ginormous bubble. My body is being held by me, by consciousness. And everything I do with love. So I'm constantly infusing it with love. And if your belief is that love is eating kale all day, well, your body will require that. If you believe that you can bless an M&M and have an M&M and say, I'm so happy, I feel like a child right now. Thank you, body. Thank you for this experience. You will never be in an enslavement meme with your body. And that's what happened to me 12 years ago. I was constantly eating diets. Back then it was all about eating 3 or 5 meals a day every 3 hours. But who was governing my reality? It wasn't me. There were other beings involved that wanted to be my puppet masters. And we all have things that we deal with because we're all human. There are still things that I'm clearing. But you will always know if you're under another person's dominion or another being or another entity dominion if you're not calling the shots. From the Nine's perspective, and other beings like the Pleiadians, I've spoken to all of them about this, your ascension will never be determined by what you do. It's more about your beliefs. It's about your energy, how much love you have in your heart. As long as you have judgment in your heart and you're imposing yourself and your beliefs onto people, the very person that you're imposing a belief on may not be seemingly as elevated as you, but they're watching you the entire time and they hold a space for you, and they're, from that perspective, more ascended than you. So everyone is ascending. This is happening. And the main thing that we're here to learn is how to suspend our judgment. All of this, that other stuff, from veganism to breatharianism, all of that will come. There is a timeline right now where we don't even eat anything, where we sustain ourselves through our prana. I could do that now if I wanted to. I choose not to, though, because I'm still having a collective experience. I don't feel called to it. I don't have that prompting, but I can. This is my greatest nutrient, which is why I'm able to eat things like sweet potato fries, because most of my nutrition comes from my breath. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to work for you. I'm not here to give you a prescription. It's all about what works for you. And remember, your beliefs are changeable. You can always change your beliefs, but sometimes you're not meant to change your beliefs. This is deep. I'm not going to go into this right now. Sometimes you're not meant to change your beliefs, because those beliefs are what's responsible for shaping your reality. I have a certain value system as a being who's having a subjective experience. As Phil, I have opinions. I have values. And it's thanks to those beliefs and those values that I'm where I am right now. But I can also see how, from the oversoul perspective, those values and beliefs are only relative to me. They don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Okay? They don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. They do, but they don't. They do in the sense that if I defy my own belief system, then I'm going to be doing myself a disfavor, you see. But I've done it before. I'm constantly changing beliefs, but I know which beliefs I have that are good for me, that are there. And to be quite frank, from another perspective, I don't even have beliefs, which is a whole other topic, but I don't want to get into that too much. Anyway, so that's my point. Remember that the way that this construct is designed is that it will always serve to you on a platter what you are still carrying within your system. And if you are still doing things that you don't want to do, it means that your internal block is like a huge boulder in your life. And it takes longer for you to get to your painting. It takes longer for you to get to your recording studio and write a song. And we don't have to subjugate ourselves to that way of living anymore. We have to be bold enough to move beyond these hurdles and let go into the unknown, and know that we will be supported by this new crystalline grid system. And there are so many beings who are already residing upon that dimension. So we just have to be willing to release anything that isn't serving us, any beliefs. This comes down to beliefs. So there are beliefs that you have to stick to because you know that they're meant to be there, because you've noticed that you keep evolving. But if there are beliefs that aren't serving you, then those are the ones to look at, to address, and to say, do I really need this? Because it's highly possible that this very belief is creating a blockage within me that is preventing me from coming into all that I am. So I hope this message helped you guys. And I thank you for subscribing. Please like this if you can. And thank you for all your support. Your donations, all of that has helped me tremendously. So I want you to know that you are deeply appreciated and acknowledged. And I will speak with you in another version of the Now.